At dinner, my stepdaughter toasted her dad and said, "He's the only one who's ever been there for me." I smiled, finished my drink, and left before dessert. The next morning, I took an action that shocked everyone. I will tell you everything. First, let me thank you for your continuous support. If you love stories like this one, support us by subscribing to this channel and comment where you are watching us from. It will be great to hear from you. Now let's jump into the details of what happened. I never expected a parade for what I did. No one marries into a family expecting applause. But I figured, maybe foolishly, that over time, people would notice the things you do for them. That support, the real kind, eventually speaks for itself. I wasn't trying to be Lena's father. She already had one of those, albeit the kind who sent sporadic texts and occasionally remembered her birthday. But when I met Monica, Lena was 12, awkward and closed off, and I stepped in as gently as I could. I took her to her first concert, drove her to volleyball practice, co-signed her first car loan. I was the one who stayed up with her during finals week when she spiraled over a chemistry exam. The one who quietly opened another credit line when her tuition bill came in higher than expected. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because I cared. Because I believed in showing up, even when it wasn't glamorous. But that night, her graduation dinner, that belief cracked. We were at this over-the-top Italian place Lena had picked, the kind of place with white tablecloths and waiters who looked like they hated being called sir. Everyone was there, Monica's family, a couple of Lena's high school friends, even her dad flew in from San Diego. It was one of those big, proud evenings where you toast someone's future and pretend the past didn't come with receipts. When dessert was about to be served, Lena stood up, glass of champagne in hand, smiling like she owned the world. "I just want to say thank you," she said, eyes sweeping across the table. "To the one person who has always believed in me, who's never let me down, my dad." Everyone clapped. Her biological father beamed like he just won a damn Nobel. Monica gave me this sheepish, almost apologetic smile, as if I'd understand, as if I'd swallow that like I had everything else. I didn't say a word, just raised my glass, took a sip, and quietly stood. No scene, no drama. I wasn't going to spoil her night, even if she'd already done a fine job of spoiling mine. I nodded at Monica, who looked like she wanted to grab my arm and make me sit down, but I was already walking. Out of the restaurant, down the block, into the night. The air felt sharper than it should have for June. Driving home, I didn't feel rage. Not even sadness. What I felt was clarity. The kind that creeps in once the noise dies down. I'd given everything I had to that girl, and in her moment of gratitude, I ceased to exist. Back home, I poured myself a whiskey, sat at the kitchen counter in silence, listening to the low hum of the fridge. I logged into the online portal where Lena's tuition payments were automated. I scrolled through the upcoming transactions, saw the next semester's payment scheduled for July 3rd. I canceled it. It took 3 clicks. That's all. 3 clicks to end 4 years of financial commitment, to draw a line where none had been drawn before. I sat there staring at the confirmation screen, not because I questioned it, but because it felt surreal how easy it was to stop being a ghost. You'd think it would hurt more, after everything, but it didn't. It felt like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long. The house was dark. Monica wouldn't be back for a while, and honestly, I didn't care. There was nothing left to say that night. I finished my drink, washed the glass, and went upstairs. The next morning, I heard the slam of the front door and Lena's voice in the hallway. "Mom, why isn't the payment going through?" I got an alert, something about billing failure. I didn't get up. Just laid in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling like it might offer some divine explanation. Monica's voice was hushed, trying to calm her down. I could hear Lena's spiraling panic, confusion, then anger. "Well, did David mess with it? He set it up." "Oh my God, are you serious right now?" A few minutes later, Monica cracked open our bedroom door. "You awake?" I didn't answer right away. Then finally, "Yeah. Did you cancel the tuition?" I sat up. "I did." She came in, arms folded, already defensive. "David, she didn't mean to. What she said last night, I heard her loud and clear. She was nervous. Her dad was there. It was complicated." I shook my head. "You don't need to explain it, Monica. Honestly, I get it. I've always gotten it. She's just a kid. She's a grown woman who just graduated college," I said. "Old enough to make a toast." Old enough to know who's been there. Monica blinked, as if my calmness unnerved her more than if I'd shouted. I can't do it anymore, I said, my voice steady. Not the bills. Not the pretending. I'm done. She didn't say anything. Just stood there, processing. Maybe realizing I wasn't bluffing. I lay back down, pulled the blanket up to my chest, and closed my eyes. She left the room without another word. I stayed in bed for another hour after Monica left the room. I wasn't tired. I wasn't even thinking, really. Just letting the silence settle over me like fresh snow. I heard footsteps downstairs, Monica's voice, sharp and hushed, Lena's louder and less filtered. The word, unbelievable, bounced off the walls more than once. Eventually, the front door slammed. Then nothing. Just quiet again. I finally got up, made coffee, and sat on the back porch with my old mug, the chipped one with the faded Chicago Cubs logo. Lena had given it to me once for Father's Day. That memory made me scoff. Not bitter, just aware now. It had been a nice gesture, but I should have paid more attention to the way she'd handed it to me, like she was completing a chore. The sun was creeping over the fence line, catching the dew on the grass. It was a beautiful morning, strangely peaceful for the storm I knew was coming. By noon, Monica called. She must have driven Lena home and calmed her down enough to talk. Her voice was lower, careful. She's upset, she said. I gathered. She didn't mean to hurt you. She did, though, I said, cutting her off gently. Whether she meant to or not. There was a pause. Then, you could have talked to me before canceling the tuition. No, Monica, I said, keeping my voice steady. See, that's the thing. I've had enough conversations where I talk and you nod, and nothing changes. This time, I acted. She didn't argue. Just sighed. So that's it. Yep, that's it. I'm not paying another cent for someone who acts like I don't exist. Another silence stretched between us. I could hear her breathing, the tight kind that meant she was trying not to yell. She's just proud of her father, Monica said finally. She wants a relationship with him. And I never stopped her. Never once. I never tried to replace him, Monica. I just showed up. I just did the work. And now I'm done pretending that was enough. She's not going to see it that way. I know, I said, finishing my coffee. But I'm not responsible for how she sees it anymore. That night, Monica didn't speak to me. She cooked dinner for herself, some sad-looking pasta, and left mine in the microwave without a word. I didn't eat it. Not out of spite. I just wasn't hungry. A couple days passed. I went to work, came home, lived like a quiet guest in my own house. Then Lena called me. I just want to understand, she said. Her tone wasn't kind or curious. It was accusatory. There's not much to understand, I said. You really just turned it off? Like that. Like that. You know I need that money. Yep. So you're just going to screw me over because of a toast? I laughed, soft and joyless. Lena, that toast wasn't just a line. It was the truth. Your truth. You wanted your father to hear that you didn't need me. So now you don't. That's not what I meant. Then maybe next time, choose your words more carefully. She was quiet for a beat. Then, you're being petty. No, I said calmly. I'm being honest. For the first time in a long time. She hung up on me. I sat on the porch again, listening to the quiet. The weight in my chest wasn't regret. It was grief. Grief for a role I'd played for years without a script. Grief for realizing that all the silent sacrifices I'd made hadn't built loyalty. They'd built expectation. That I was only useful as long as I stayed silent. Later that night, Monica finally cracked. We were brushing our teeth side by side, not talking, when she said through the phone, "You're punishing her." I spit and rinsed. No, I'm stepping back. There's a difference. She's just a kid, David. She's 22. She's about to start her senior year. She's old enough to understand consequences. She's your family, Monica said quietly. No, Monica, I said, turning to face her. She never accepted me as that. She made that very clear. Monica looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time in a long time, I saw that she didn't have an answer. I went to bed early that night. Not to sleep, but to lie there in the dark and think. About all the times I'd put Lena first. About all the little ways I'd made space for her father's presence. Birthday dinners where I played second fiddle. Award nights where I took the photos but wasn't asked to be in them. Support isn't about applause. But it's not about erasure either. I'd made peace with the fact that I was never going to be her dad. I just didn't realize I'd never even earned the title of man who mattered. The next day started with a knock. Not the kind you ignore. This one was sharp, urgent, angry. I opened the front door, and there she was, Lena. Hoodie, messy bun. Eyes already red like she'd been rehearsing in the car. She pushed past me without a word and stood in the middle of the living room like she was waiting for applause or judgment. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she snapped. I shut the door and leaned against it. Calm. Because if I wasn't calm, I'd say something I couldn't unsay. "You think it's okay to just pull the rug out like that?" she demanded. "To screw with my education because your feelings got hurt?" "I didn't screw with anything," I said. "I stopped paying for something I was never thanked for in the first place." "Oh my God," she said, pacing now. "Are you seriously that petty?" I didn't answer right away. I watched her storm back and forth across the living room like it belonged to her, which, in a way, it always had. Her stuff still sat on the shelves, even though she lived on campus. Photos of her and Monica, a few of her and her dad at Disneyland when she was a kid. None with me. "Do you even realize what you've done?" she shouted. "I do," I said. "I stopped pretending I mattered to you." She froze at that. Her jaw clenched, arms crossing defensively. "I'm not your dad," I continued. "I've known that since day one. I never asked to be, but I've been the one showing up, driving you places, paying your bills, dealing with your drama. And when you had the chance to show even an ounce of appreciation, you made it crystal clear who mattered and who didn't." "That toast wasn't. It was exactly what you meant it to be," I said, voice firm now. "You had your father there, so you performed. That's fine. But don't come running to me afterward asking for money like I'm some ATM with no memory." She scoffed. "You're making this about you." "For once," I said. "Yeah, I am." She looked stunned, like she hadn't considered that I might be a real person with limits. Like I wasn't supposed to have a line you couldn't cross. "You're punishing me over a toast." "No," I said. "I'm holding you accountable for a pattern. You haven't said thank you in years, Lena. Not once. You treat me like a backup singer in your life, someone who's just there to hold the spotlight steady while you sing to the people who don't even show up." She swallowed hard. Her eyes were glassy, but she wasn't crying. "Not yet." "I thought you cared," she said quietly. "I do. Or I did," I said. "But love without respect? That's just servitude." That one hit her. She blinked, stepped back like I'd shoved her. "You'll regret this," she said, voice shaking. "Maybe," I said. "But not today." She left without slamming the door. Just slipped out like the air had gone out of her. I stood there for a long time after she was gone, staring at the closed door, feeling a quiet that was equal parts sadness and relief. That night, Monica and I didn't speak. She knew Lena had come by. She must have seen the shift in my posture, the hollowness that settles in when you realize a bond you thought you had was only ever one-sided. I went to bed early again. Not out of exhaustion, but because I didn't want to keep living in a house that felt like a courtroom. Every room felt like evidence now, proof of how much I gave and how little I asked for in return. Sometime around midnight, Monica came in and sat on the edge of the bed. "She's young," she said softly. "She's 22. I replied without looking at her. "She's never had to think about this stuff." "I know, because we protected her from it. Especially me." "She was scared of losing her dad," Monica said. "That's all. She wanted to make him feel included. And in doing that, she erased me." Monica sighed. "Maybe she didn't know how to balance it." "That's the thing," I said, finally looking at her. "She never had to balance it. Because you never asked her to. You were so scared of making waves with your ex that you let me sink." That was the first time Monica didn't have a comeback. "She doesn't have to love me," I said. "But she doesn't get to use me." Monica nodded slowly. "So what now?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I'm not paying another cent. That's non-negotiable." And with that, I rolled over, back to her, and listened to her breathing in the dark. It was long and uneven, like she was carrying weight she'd never thought she'd have to. It was only a matter of time before the ex called. He never used to reach out to me directly. For the past 10 years, we maintained a careful détente. If there was a school event, we nodded stiffly and stayed on opposite ends of the gym. Holidays were split. Emails went through Monica. He wasn't hostile, just indifferent, which suited me fine. But apparently, when money stopped flowing, So did the boundaries. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. I was at my desk, sorting through invoices, when my phone buzzed. His name lit up the screen like a warning sign. I stared at it for a second, debating whether to let it go to voicemail, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello, David," he said, smooth and casual, like we were old friends. "Hope I'm not interrupting anything." "You are," I said, not bothering to sugarcoat it. He chuckled, like he thought I was joking. "Listen, I just wanted to check in about the tuition situation." I didn't respond. "Lena called me pretty upset," he went on. "Said something about you pulling support?" "That's right." Another pause. "Can I ask why?" "You just did." His voice changed then. Not angry, but tighter. More performative. "Look, I know things can get emotional, but this is her education we're talking about. I mean, come on, for years in, and now you're cutting her off." "Let me stop you right there," I said. "You're her father. You want her tuition paid? Pay it." There was silence. Long enough that I imagined he was blinking at the phone. "I've been paying for years," I continued. "Fully, without your help. And all I got in return was being publicly erased in front of you. So no, I'm not continuing that. That's your job now. That's not fair, no. What's not fair is me footing the bill while you show up twice a year and get all the credit." She made her choice. Now she lives with it. You're doing this to punish her. I'm doing this because I finally see the damn game for what it is. He let out a slow breath. This isn't about you, man. That pushed a button I didn't even know was still active. That's the problem, I said. It's never about me. It's about what I give, what I tolerate, what I swallow. But when I finally stop, suddenly I'm the villain? Come on, don't make this personal. It is personal, I snapped. And it always has been. I just stopped pretending otherwise. He was quiet after that. Then a quick, "Suit yourself," before he hung up. I sat there for a while, phone still in my hand, heart racing. Not with anger, but with adrenaline. Saying those things out loud gave them weight. Finality. That night, I told Monica about the call. She shook her head. "Why would he even call you?" "Because Lena asked him to." Monica chewed her bottom lip. "He's not reliable." "Then maybe she'll finally learn that." She sat down across from me at the kitchen table, folding her arms like she was bracing for something. "Do you want me to ask him to help with tuition?" I looked at her, hard. "Why should you have to ask? He should have offered 10 years ago." She looked down at her hands, and in that silence, I saw it. What I hadn't allowed myself to see all these years. She wasn't clueless. She was complicit. She didn't fight for me because it was easier not to. Easier to keep the peace with her ex, easier to let me be the silent financier, the dependable shadow in the background. "You never stood up for me," I said quietly. "Not once." Her eyes met mine wide. "That's not true." "It is," I said. "You let her treat me like I was just some guy who shared your bed. You let your ex take credit for my work. And every time I bit my tongue, you thanked me with silence." She opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. She had no argument. Just the kind of guilt that comes when the lights come on too bright, too fast. "I don't know how we come back from this," I said finally. She reached across the table, but I didn't take her hand. "I don't know either," she whispered. The shift didn't happen all at once. There wasn't a dramatic breakup or screaming match. It was more like a house settling. Things creaked, cracked, and shifted until nothing sat the way it used to. Monica and I moved through the same space, but we weren't really living together anymore. We were coexisting, like roommates who once loved each other and now just shared a lease. She started sleeping on the couch some nights. Said it was her back, but I knew better. I stopped asking. Lena stopped coming around completely. No text, no email, just radio silence. I imagined her holed up on campus, spinning the story in her head. David cut me off. David betrayed me. David doesn't care. That was fine. I wasn't chasing down anyone's narrative anymore. One morning, about 2 weeks after the dinner, I stood in the living room and looked around like I was seeing it for the first time. The framed photos of her high school graduation, the signed volleyball from her senior season, the family portrait from Disneyland where I stood off to the side, smiling like a guest star in my own life. It all felt staged, like props from a life I'd subsidized but never quite belonged to. I pulled out a suitcase. It wasn't a decision made in anger. There was no dramatic rush of emotion, no shouting in the driveway. just a quiet resolve. I packed like I was checking out of a hotel, orderly, detached, done. A few pairs of jeans, some shirts, toiletries, my laptop. I took down the few things in the house that were actually mine and fit them neatly in a box. When Monica came home and saw it, she didn't ask what I was doing. She just stood in the doorway, pale and still. "You're leaving?" she asked, like she was just now realizing this was real. I nodded. "I've been gone for a while." Just didn't admit it. She walked into the kitchen, leaned on the counter like she needed something to hold her up. "Is there someone else?" "No," I said. "There's just me." Finally, she looked at me then, really looked. And I could see in her face the weight of everything she hadn't said, the gratitude that never came, the advocacy I never got. And under all of it, the one question she didn't dare ask: did I do this? Yes. Yes, she did. "I thought we were stronger than this," she said quietly. "I thought so too," I replied. "But love isn't enough, Monica. Not when you let someone drown for 10 years and call it sacrifice." She didn't follow me when I carried my bags out to the car. She just stood at the window, arms crossed, watching. And I didn't look back. I rented a small cabin 2 hours north, up near a lake we used to visit before Lena started high school. I spent the first 3 days in silence. No phone, no email, just me, coffee, and a notebook I hadn't written in since our wedding. And I wrote. I didn't write letters or rants. I wrote truths. Every page was something I had swallowed. Things I never said in the moment because it didn't feel worth it. But it was. It always was. I wrote about the time Lena called me just David in front of her friends and Monica laughed like it was cute. I wrote about the nights I lay awake wondering what more I had to do to be seen. I wrote about the moment I canceled the tuition payment and didn't feel guilty. And I wrote about the deep, aching grief of realizing you built a life where you were always expendable. When I came back into town a week later, I didn't go home. I signed a lease on a small one-bedroom apartment downtown, close to work, close to nothing else. It wasn't sad. It was clean, clear, new. That evening, as I was unpacking my books, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. It was Lena. I stared at the screen for a long time before I opened it. "Hi. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. I guess. I didn't mean to hurt you. This is just hard for everyone. Anyway, good luck with everything." There it was. Not an apology. Not really. A statement of discomfort wrapped in vague regret. She still didn't get it. I didn't reply. I put the phone down, made myself a cup of tea, and sat by the window. Outside, people were going about their lives, walking dogs, laughing with takeout bags, living. And I realized I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel anything but light. Not bitter. Not angry. Just free. Free from trying to earn a place I should have already had. Free from the mental math of sacrifice. Free from the illusion that being good would eventually make people see you. The days settled into a rhythm I hadn't known I was missing. I woke up early without needing to. I made strong coffee and didn't rush through it. I worked in silence, answered to no one, and came home to stillness. The kind of stillness that used to scare me but now felt like peace. Every now and then, I'd catch myself reaching for a habit that no longer applied. Checking my phone for a text from Lena that wouldn't come, or buying 2 of something at the grocery store before remembering it was just me now. Those moments passed, and with each one, a little more weight fell off. I thought about them sometimes, Monica and Lena, not out of longing, but like you'd think about an old house you moved out of. Familiar walls, familiar smells. But you know the pipes leak and the windows don't close right, and you'll never move back in. Monica texted me once a few weeks after I left. Just a single line, "Hope you're okay." I never replied. Not because I was angry. I just didn't have anything left to give. Every conversation with her felt like being asked to relive my own erasure. I'd said everything I needed to say. Lena never followed up on her half apology. No letters. No voice messages. Just silence. Which, oddly enough, I appreciated more than the alternative. She'd said her piece. So had I. We were even, in the way people sometimes are after a war where both sides lose something they can't name. I started seeing a therapist, not for the heartbreak, but to understand why I let it go on for so long. Why I let myself be diminished with such grace. She asked me, during one session, What I would have wanted Lena to say that night at the restaurant. I thought about it for a while, then said, nothing dramatic. Just a nod. A look. Something that said, you were part of this too. That's what hurt the most in the end. Not being unappreciated. Being invisible. I wrote more. Not just in journals, but real essays. I started submitting them to websites. One piece, a reflection on fatherhood and the illusion of gratitude, got picked up by a parenting blog. I never used real names. It wasn't about shaming anyone. It was about reclaiming myself, my voice, after years of making myself smaller. And one night, as I sat by the window of my new apartment watching the street lamps flicker on, I realized something I hadn't admitted out loud. I didn't regret it. Not leaving. Not stopping the tuition. Not choosing myself. There's this narrative we're fed that the person who walks away is the one who gave up. But the truth is, sometimes walking away is the bravest, clearest thing you can do. Especially when staying means letting people believe you don't need anything in return. Love is not a currency, but respect? That's non-negotiable. I still carry a few of those memories with me. Not out of bitterness, but as reminders. I remember Lena's 8th grade science fair, when I stayed up until 3 a.m. building that volcano with her. I remember her first heartbreak, when she cried into my shoulder and told me I was the only man she could really talk to. I know now those moments were real, at least for me. And that's enough. We can't control how people remember us. We can only control what we give, and when we choose to stop giving. I gave them years. My time, my money, my patience, my loyalty. And when they showed me what that was worth to them, I believed them. That's what love without resentment looks like. Boundaries, drawn clearly, with no need to explain. Support doesn't come with strings, but it doesn't come without self-respect either. So now, I live simply, quietly, proudly. And every now and then, when someone asks if I have kids, I smile and say, no, not with bitterness. With peace. Because I used to be a stepfather. Now I'm a man who knows his worth. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful, real-life narratives that dive deep into family, boundaries, and personal growth. Share your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments. We read every one. Your support helps us bring more voices and stories to light. See you soon in the next one.